All right, so it's not uncommon to have a developer outside from the Ruby world at Wrocław RB. Mateusz Nowak, he's on a daily basis working with Axon, Axon framework, which is a framework for event sourcing, but Mateusz is also interested in event modeling and domain-driven design, which he will talk about right now. So, Mateusz Nowak.
Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. I'm from Wrocław, so it wasn't far from me to come here. And right at the beginning, I'd like to show you the presentation slide, which showed me a lecture on my studies that changed my entire life, or at least programming part of it. Of course, there was no title game changer on it, but finally we get to games today. But it's about the Blue Book, Domain-Driven Design by Eric Evans. I was very lucky that I have met such a professor, especially at a Polish university. It's a little weird to talk it in this room, but it wasn't my university, so I hope it would be good. Where in the Polish university, they typically teach us that to design the application, we need to find nouns, enclose them into rectangles, connect those rectangles with arrows, and you are done with your modeling, you have your database design, so what else do you need to do the application? Looking back, I feel that it's such an entirely different approach from what is in the book. That means either almost nobody at the university has heard about Eric Evans, or somewhere in the corridors they refer to him as you know who. So I've read the book and I didn't understand anything. Yes, it was very difficult to finish it. Especially first unit I bought in Polish. It was totally messy. Yes, it's better in English, much better. So I began implementing some patterns in my code, but that probably wasn't the point. However, this was the beginning of my journey to discover many other methods and tools, which the community sometimes refer to as an event-driven thinking. So event-driven thinking is a term which contains things like DDD, event modeling, event sourcing. And I will be talking about today, but it's not about a certain way of writing code, but it's something has to shift in our minds. We need to change our way of thinking. This change of our focus in the application design from database tables to processes and behaviors. Putting it all together, a process of application design has emerged, which I use in real commercial projects, and I will present it to you today, but on a fun example. And now just a few words about me. I have 8 years of experience in the industry. I've been working as a backend, full stack, as well as a technical leader, and now I have a contract with Axonic. This is the proper pronouncing of the company. Yes, and the company is responsible for Axon framework, and our mission is to make event sourcing easy in the Java world. Whereas today, of course, I have code examples in Ruby, especially for you. I made just one application in Ruby, the sample, which we will see. But it doesn't matter, because most of the things we are going to talk about are tech agnostic. What is important is in which domains I've been working, because it's where I've battle tested the process. I haven't sent a rocket to Mars, or I haven't implemented implants to brains, not yet, at least. But what is the purpose of our enterprise applications? Be honest, it's much simpler. We want to pay for our cheeseburger or for order to be shipped. There are the types of problems we like to tackle today. And I also like to share my knowledge a lot, especially with my little son. And as you see, even in the age of 1, it's possible to do an event storming workshop. And there where we are organizing his birthday party. And as I recall it correctly, he was moving a sticky with cake served to be before grandparents arrived. Maybe he wants more for himself, I don't know. And beside that, I'm also blogging on those sites. The first one, nakodach.pl, is my Polish blog, and DDD Heroes is the English one. And I encourage you to visit them after the conference, because there is more about the topics I will be covering today. And there is also one more thing that has taken a lot of time in my life. Do I regret it? I don't know. So ready to take some of our time today as well. And question to you, who has ever played Heroes of Might and Magic 3? Please raise your hands. Okay. A lot of people, I think especially from Poland. Thanks. The game experience is not required to understand the presentation, but definitely will gain more fun from it. So my mom used to tell me, and I think also your moms probably, don't sit at the computer so much, you will never find a job. But what we are doing right now is exactly that. But be honest, for many of us, fascinating with games was the beginning of our programming journey. So let's back to the beginning and play a little. I also heard that it's possible to do a game in Excel, so why not on PowerPoint? So this is our situation. In the center, there is a hero which wants to capture the mine. We have the mine guards in front of, and those are skeletons. They are almost the weakest creature in the game. And what do you think, especially people experienced in the domain, what do you think? Who will win the battle? The skeletons, the guardians, or the hero with such army you can see in the corner? Okay, it depends. Yes, there is always the answer. And this was very, very good answer, but our hero didn't check that. And how it was? Yes, you were right. What just happened? The hero didn't expect everything. He didn't expect how many skeletons there would be, and it was too many. And in fact, this battle didn't end well. And our hero head was cut off. We has lost the battle. And let's try to draw some conclusions from this situation, how to not to be like hero here. What should we do to keep our heads in place in IT projects? When the project goes wrong or gets delayed, we look for excuse. For example, I knew this map, or for our industry terms, I've done a lot of projects like this, or it was just a simple CRUD, but real life can be tricky. And what was missing in such a process of our hero? We're missing a phase of planning. This was good, as you said. In a game, it's so easy because it's enough just to click on skeletons to see the estimation on how many of them is there. And it was a legion, so a lot. We could have checked if we had enough army to find against them. For software projects, we need to check if we have the right tools and methods for the job. Today, we'll learn how to do the planning in a rewarding way. And this presentation is part of a series of articles, which I have described in detail on LinkedIn. But today we'll cover just two topics from it, and it's the event modeling, system boundaries, and quality without code review. So for the beginning, let's solve the analogy from the presentation title. What do I mean by might and magic referring to a DDD? First of all, we have the might, so our patterns and heuristics. The theory we can learn from books or presentation like this, but to be successful, we need something more. We need a little bit of magic on top of that. And this is the experience and intuition, but it comes with practice. So how can we gain experience and train intuition every day? It would be nice to do it in your projects, but even in your project, Eric Evans is, you know who. You can still do it, and I'm going to tell you how right now. To do this, we must observe what happens around us. And in the 21st century, we meet technology almost on every step. Have you ever ordered something like an Uber taxi? I'm sure you did. So, it's obvious. The basic feature of the app is that you can order a ride for yourself. And the first step of the exercise is to model the domain. And in the second step, you need to wait for a new feature in your favorite app. And what could it be? And recently, while shopping online, I noticed that I could also choose a Uber for shopping, for shipping the product. And they also advertise it. It will reach me in 90 minutes. So super new feature, that's it. So let's model the taxi domain again to support this new possibility. Is the next step. And it's good to do this with a real app because you don't shape the domain by yourself, but you react to changes in it. And when a new feature appears, it's time to assess your model. This is where the money is. You see the bag with money. The emoji will appear more often in the presentation. And this is the time where you verify if your model was flexible enough to make changes easy. And let's ask yourself, how many places did you need to modify? Have you been ready for the new requirements? Or did you couple the right with passenger too tightly in the first model? So if you've done it, have you end with passenger extend without passenger extends passenger to support the package as a passenger? Maybe. I've seen it a lot in legacy applications, and it's not good. So I'm going to show you how to do the exercise for business processes from the Heroes 3 domain. How to model to be able to introduce changes fast enough and to keep our system loosely coupled. And why Heroes 3? Heroes 3. Sorry, it was too, I too often refer to it in Polish. Yes. I don't program games, but this is about the business processes that appear here. You will definitely see references to things from real life or on daily basis you use like e-commerce. Because if we just use a taxi application, we don't know how it works under the hood. And complexity usually hides where we don't see it. Querying drivers, determining routes, this part is most complex. With Heroes, we have a lot of documentation and the real game, which we may treat as a legacy application. We'll also try to make it extendable, so let's start the modeling. And the first step in the modeling process is not coding, but getting knowledge from domain experts. But how to do it in a structured way? Just talking over a coffee is not enough. Why? So I have even an analogy from today. I don't feel well about this, but I need to confess to you. Today, while going to the conference, I've met my friend who is from Mexico, and she asked me how to get to Galeria Dominikańska. I think she has about 50% chance to not getting lost in the city, because I gave her 2 tram options, and after saying goodbye, I realized that I had given one of them incorrectly. We may say that I'm a domain expert of the city, but I lived here since I was born, but you see, don't trust domain experts. What would be better? It would be better if I go with her to the schedule and check it with my help with her. It's also what we should do in our project. It's better to have everything on the whiteboard than just talk with the experts. And because of that, I start the process with event modeling. Event storming. We reach event modeling also today. We focus on events and behavior, not jumping straight to active record. I know you use it in Ruby, at least this thing I'm aware of, and to the database tables. So it's when we should listen to Master Yoda. You must unlearn what you have learned. They taught us to do it in this way. It was a lot of years of programming when you started from databases, and it was used to do by other programmers. Our habit of focusing on databases is what we must find against. So when we overcome them and put the computer aside, we can start the design process. So about event storming, there have been many conferences talk already, and we have a great book on this topic by Alberto Brandolini, the author of the method, so we go through it quickly. We have started the workshop by doing brainstorming with domain expert, and we found many events that occur in the domains of Heroes 3. You've seen them even on the example first. Creature fainted, hero hired, creature attacked, the week started, creature moved, allotment happened, combat finished. We see the combat results of our hero already. Later, we have sorted them on the timeline and found some business processes. And the experts pointed out that there is one important process that we should deal with first, and that is a creature recruitment in the game. The creatures in the domain are like the skeletons we saw at the beginning, or members of the hero's army. You can recruit creatures into his army by paying for them and then use them in the battles. The process contains just 2 simple events. Available creatures changed, so we know how many we can recruit. And then when some are available, the creature recruited may happen if we decided to do that. But now it's a movie time, so if you have some snacks from the corridor or popcorn, you can take them out, because we'll watch a video to make sure we are on the same page and know what we will be modeling today. And we can treat the video like we are analyzing an interactive mockup or a legacy application. And let's see how it works. Yes, I need to change. Oh, okay. We have it here. First, I will just show you the video, and then I will explain what we see here. Okay, just 7 seconds, so it looks so simple, but a lot of things is happening there. It's not so easy to operate the video with lags. Okay, but I hope I managed to do so. Okay, so what do we see on the screen? First of all, we have a dwelling. Dwelling is a place where we can recruit creatures. I even seen dwelling word on the previous presentation, where you type apartment. It was when you was changing your slides so fast. I noticed that. You can see it's very similar to a commerce system, because we have cost per troop, the price of our product. We may treat the creature as a product. In this case, we can recruit angels. We see the availability. So we have one available, we choose one to recruit. We see the total price of it. And when we decide to buy the creature, so we click this recruit button, the creature appears here, so it's added to our army. And that's it. So after watching how it looks like, can we start coding right away? We already have events, we have UIs, but not really. Although the front end is very, very important. Nobody wants an ugly application, of course. But we must remember that our process is a part of a whole, settled in some domain, and different contexts will be mixed in the UI. So don't get me wrong, good UI and UX also makes money. So we have money emojis here. There is value here, and we can't skip it during design phase. But UX designer won't do our modeling work for us and prepare us for future requirements. So we already have a UI, we have events, so it's time to connect them somehow and craft our domain model. So to do that, we are going to use event modeling. I prefer it over process and design level event storming. And event modeling is based on a natural people ability to tell the stories. We draw the business processes like frames in a movie, and in the notation we avoid very technical terms like policies or aggregates. The event modeling was coined by Adam Dimitruk in 2018 on Event Storming Summit. Initially it was called single throw event storming. I think there is something in the name, and is it better than event storming? I don't know, I leave it for your judgment, I prefer that. So let's see in practice. The beginning is very simple. We take events from the event storming and place them on the board. Events are the important business facts that may happen in our domain. But the name of the event is not everything to describe the fact. As we were taught in school, when we talk about some event, we want to announce something, we need to also specify what, where, and when. It's the same here. We must describe those events. So we use properties to do that. And for available creature change, we may ask where in the dwelling with the given ID. Who was that? It was a creature with an ID, and the ID is Angel in this case, and change to 2. Yes, and the following event is in the process is creature recruited, and in the same who was recruited, what was recruited, Angel, in where, in the dwelling with ID, how many recruited 2, what was the total cost, and to which army we wanted the angel to be joined. Then the question appears, what is the trigger of those events? How they may happen in the system, and from where does this data come from? Then we add blue sticky notes. These are the commands, our intentions to change the state, and the result of the command may be the event. Events in this are the state changes itself. But still, we need something more, because when our user decides they want to do something, they must do it based on some knowledge about the state, the current state of the system. It's similar to e-commerce. One more time, we see in the catalog what is the price of the product and if they are in stock. Only then we can make a decision if we'd like to buy something or not. So we have the green stickies to do the same, what we'd like to show to the user, and we describe it also with properties. And views change in reaction to events. So as you may notice, after the event available creatures changed, we'll see that 2 are available, and after creature recruited, so we recruited 2, so we see that 0 remains. And as I said before, we cannot forget about the front end. Finally, it's also a part of the product that makes money. Sometimes it happens that backend developer do their work, they close task in Jira, and suddenly the front-end developer says, hey, listen, there was something on the UI we missed before, and please add me this API and that API and also that API. And thanks to event modeling, we can avoid this. Because based on the diagram, we can say where each piece of the data comes from. If I had it on the event, where did it appear before? There are already event tools as Miro board extensions that help you with that and do the completeness check of the information flow for you. Right after the event storming, we said that these 2 events form one business process. It was just an intuition, but how can we prove that? Is this process complete already, or should I have more events within it? Let's discuss now only one, in my opinion, the most useful approach to check if our model is an autonomous and complete module of the app. This approach is to ask a question. What happened after an event? So what happened after the creature recruited event? The answer, and we saw in the video, it was the creature was added to the army, always, period. But you can't recruit a creature, of course you can't recruit creature into nothing. So looks like we should include this event into one module and keep it as a whole. Sounds good, but can we be sure about that? So let's ask even more questions. We can also ask what happens before the creature added to the army. Thankfully, we did the event storming big picture session, and we already have a wider view of the whole domain. We are able to answer this question, but there is no single answer. Depending on the domain expert who know about that part of the system, we got different answers. Not only recruited creatures can join our army. For example, a creature like the skeletons at the beginning, they were fighting against us, but they can also decide to surrender and join our army as well. And in this case, when it also influences our army. When the skeletons decide to surrender, we add it to the army, so the event creature added to the army may also happen after creature surrender. Also, when the battle finished, its result also affects the army in the other way. We remove the creatures, and it also influences the army. Knowing that the same thing doesn't always happen before adding to the army, we should separate these events with a thick line, as you see, as a separate module, parts of another process. And there is also a money. Thanks to these experiments that we did on the whiteboard and have verified our assumptions about the model, we avoided wrong coupling between the parts that should be separated. It may have saved us hours of coding and refactoring if we connected wrong those parts. And what if we didn't ask these questions? there is a high risk that we would connect it all together, creating a big ball of mud. We would end up with one model that would keep growing. It looks like connecting nodes with arrows, what we wanted to avoid. Suddenly, it would turn out that battles affects the army, and with battles comes a list of spells that can be casted during the battle. So you also need to incorporate concept of spells into the same module. We would reach the situation that someone would say, "Sir, this needs to be rewritten." So we avoided this huge, smelly problem thanks to this approach. To make our example complete, let's focus for a moment on adding a creature to the army. So this event. What is happening here? We already know that those two events will be in different modules. So we draw those modules as gray rectangles on the diagram, and we enclose events inside them. Those modules do not know about each other's existence at all, but we don't operate in a void, and we need to somehow communicate between them. It's where the process orchestrator comes into play. In event modeling, we call it automation pattern. You can think about it like a robot which listens for creature recruited events. Then the robot is keeping his own to-do lists of tasks that what I needed to do when the event occurs. And when the event arrives, the automation executes the next part of the higher level process. The automation is a form of a glue between those two modules. But should we care about that from a business perspective? Someone might say that dividing application into modules is just some fun for developers, but it's not really influence the business. Because I think we should care, because we have just defined our business capabilities. What can we do in Heroes? We can fight battles, recruit creatures, manage armies. In the game, we have a basic mode, which is called scenario, just so that in the beginning, it connects all those parts. We can explore the map, we can capture mines, do the battles, etc. But in Heroes 5, a different game mode was introduced. I have a theory that Heroes 3 might not be modular enough to do that, because they done it just two versions later. It was a dual mode, when you just pick armies and do battle between them. There is no map exploring at all. This mode was composed based on the limited set of capabilities of the system. And what is even more important, the mode was only in a paid extensions for the game. So for our enterprise, we can also use the advantage of modularity and create new projects based on existing parts, or even do the pricing based on modules. In this way, a programmer can be a real business partner and become an enabler for future business development or even new products. Okay, it's great. We already designed our system, but there is still a question of how to build it and organize work in a team. First, let's see what types of tasks we can prepare from event modeling. The event modeling can be split into vertical slices that are on different types. First of them is a right slice. You see it here. We have a command, which is executed from the UI or REST API, depends on the application developing. And the command may trigger an event, which causes a state change. Another type is a read slice. We have events which influence the view. It doesn't change the state. And the last one for today is an automation slice. When an event happens, we integrate it with another module and dispatch a command to orchestrate processes that span autonomous modules. It's a higher level of orchestration. And now, please welcome our development team. Now we must organize their work. We have 2 developers, so not a big team, but a huge challenge. To meet the project deadline, it would be nice to split the work into independent parts that can be done in parallel. So we are going to split the event modeling into slices. Every slice will be a separate unit of work, which can be done by one developer. If your company uses Jira, you may always refer to a slice in a task if your management really need that. So where to start the work? The first decision is very simple because we have two distinguished modules. Those modules do not know about themselves, do not communicate to each other. So we assign developers to two distinguished modules, and they can work on their own in the same time. The slices we are to do are marked in red. Yellow slice is in progress, and the green one is done. The modules doesn't know about each other, so the developers started their work. They do not need to wait for anything. And when the slice on the left-hand side is done, we have unlocked next slices to work on, like levels in the game. We can do tasks that depends on the slice which is already done. So what we have unlocked? We unlocked the read slice because it depends on the event from the previous slice. So it's the only contract between those slices. We can proceed with the development. Or if we follow the CQRS pattern, we can do even the next parts of the command side, because the command side doesn't depend on the query side. Still, also events are the contract between slices. So we can proceed to the right slice, which is the recruit creature, because those write and read slices are also independent thanks to the CQRS. So there we can also work in the same time. There is no dependency. So we have two developers, and when the next slice is done, we can do the automation part, because as you see, still the event is a contract. We know the event is already implemented. When we publish the event, the robot will handle the event and may dispatch a command. So we already have the command, we have the event part, so we can do the glue between them. And so we assign the developers here. And when those slices are done, the whole process is done. And if you are thinking, how does it look like in a real project? You may see it from a helicopter view. This one was almost finished, so we don't have lead slices there, but there is still a few of yellow slices. Most of them are green, so it's almost done. But it's also a nice way to present the progress for a company board, because it's easy to see how much we have to do and what we have done so far. Thus, you can minimize the view and look for the colors. Tasks are divided and our team completed them. But the question remains, how they have done it? So let's move to what we like the most, to the code. Be merciful for me, because it will be in Ruby. So because of the limited time, now we are going to focus just on the domain part. We don't want to touch database or HTTP right now. We are going to compose our domain logic using three pure functions: the decide, evolve, and react. So on the model, we've seen three different building blocks: commands, events, and views. We translate them one-to-one into classes along with corresponding properties. So we have simple immutable data classes. And as you see, just rewrite those attributes. Later, as always, we start the implementation with the tests. So on the left-hand side, we see shorter notation from event modeling. We call them given when then specifications. Given are the preconditions, and in case of the right model, when we execute the command, the given are the events that happened before the action. When is the action? So in this case, is the command, and then is where we assert expected result of the command. On the right-hand side, you have the code. So in the given part, we define our dwelling, which will be the aggregate in this case. In the dwelling, the name of it is Portal of Glory, as you remember, where angels may be recruited from the game. And cost per troop, given events, is an array. of events. It means that we have two creatures available. When we have the command recruit creature, create a new one, and the aggregate decide if the command would be accepted or rejected based on the previous events. And in this case, we expect that events as a result of the command would be just one creature recruited, and at the end, the simple assert equal. But to have some conditions in our implementation of decide function, we need at least two test cases. So let's add another one. And in this case, we try to recruit two units, but just one is available. So in this case, we do not expect anything as a result. More precisely, we expect empty list of events, so nothing, as you see as with the assertion at the end of the test. And it's a convention in a team. You may also raise an exception as well. And translating event modeling specification to test is very boring and repeatable task. So it's better to give it to some junior or even LLM. And to be honest, I've put the event modeling to ChatGPT along with some samples, how I translated just the first slice to the code, and the AI done rest of the work for me. You may find the whole sample on my blog, and it will be definitely easier to read it than on your machines than on this slide, of course. So how to fulfill those tests? Let's go to the implementation. The problem that appears here is what's between command and event on the event modeling. And on the event modeling, it was just an arrow. But in the implementation, there is the decide function. It's responsible for business logic and guarding invariants. So it's a part of the aggregate. Someone familiar with event storming might ask, where is the yellow card? Where is the rule? And the answer is there isn't. Because business rules comes from the specification, from the examples we've seen before. We think in examples. So, and this opens new doors in our minds. Because it's not like we write a rule on a yellow sticky note, put it on the wall, and we have silent agreement about the rule. And then, after some days, suddenly, when almost everything is implemented, someone may say, okay, listen, there is a case when this doesn't apply. And that's why we are doing something like TDD, but before the implementation on the whiteboard with sticky notes, and we constantly iterating our model. And about the code. Yes, in the decide function, we have two parameters. First is a command, and the second one in the state. And first we assert the business rule. So we have if the creature is this one which we can recruit in the dwelling, in this case the angel. And we also check if we are trying to recruit more than is available. In this case, we return empty list. If we pass all those business rule checks, we return a list with our business events. In this case, just one creature recruited. And the second parameter, the state, from where is it come from? So the answer is here. We calculate the state using the evolve function. So in this case, as you've seen, the events influences green stickies. So the state stickies, which may be used also so for the state or for the views of your read models. We keep the state same as before in reaction for the event. So you see that case event when available creature changed, we just do the state on the data class with available creatures and we assign the new value. In case of the another event, so creature recruited, we reduce the available creature's availability based on what we already recruited. And someone might think, oh, well, so much events here. So this must be event sourcing. I don't have event sourcing in my project. I do not use Rails event store, something else, so I cannot follow this process. And it's not totally true. Let's look how it looks on the diagram. Indeed, I must admit that there can be event sourcing here, and it's my preferred way of implementing that, but it's not required. If we compose those decide and evolve function in the following order, as you see here, so we load the events from the event store, we pass it to the evolve function, we have a state, then we take the state and the command to the evolve function, and as a result we have events which we store. So we have events at the beginning, events at the end, so this is event sourcing. But we can treat it another way. If we compose it in this style, so we load the state from the database, we take the command to be executed, put both of them to the decides function, we have events as a result, but then we can put events to the evolve function, and we have state as a result. So as you see, state at the beginning, state at the end. So it's like storing a snapshot in a database. So the decider pattern, I used it because one of the advantage is also it's persistent agnostic. And we still have automation left. Here, just the simplest possible implementation of it, because of our limited time, I describe it more on my blog. So in this case, we react with a command on a certain event. And we do case on event type when creature recruited, then execute command in army module, add creatures to the army, as we saw on our video. So it's the glue between modules. And thanks to the pattern, we achieved some standardization in our code. Why is it important? Does anyone remember what happened in Heroes when you mixed two different fractions in one army? Yes, yes, good. I see domain experts here, so morale dropped. And think about how developers' morale dropped if we argue even how to implement an aggregate in our project. So it's better to avoid it with some standardization what did. And thanks to the standardization, we achieve even more profits because it's efficient to onboarding new people. If you use some patterns, the implementation becomes boring. As you see, the modeling phase was more important because during the implementation, we just translated the stickies to the code. So we can even delegate the implementation parts to juniors or even to the AI, and everything will go faster with that. So we save a lot of money and a lot of time. So the implementation is ready. It seems that this is the end, but then he appears again and asks, what about code review? And let's see how the software development process looks like. It's a simplified one, but you may treat it as not a waterfall. We may assume that we build it for every task. So we have the planning at the beginning, then in the parallel UX and UI designers may start their work, then we do the implementation. After the implementation, there is code review. And please let's notice that the code review must be interrupted with the implementation, because only then it makes sense. If we add some changes from the commands, we need to interrupt the phase and return to the implementation. And at the end, there is deployment, of course. But it would be better if we can think about the quality even before the implementation. Let's see that the real battle for the quality happens during planning and experiments, not during coding. We've avoided many mistakes. Thanks to that, we do the exercise and we checked our assumptions about the model. We ask good questions. In a typical software development life cycle, the code review is like thinking about battle strategy, but after our hero head was cut off. So there isn't much benefit in that, and you probably don't have time to rewrite everything if needed, because it may happen that all your assumptions were wrong after the code review. So what can we do instead? When someone asks in a project how to improve quality, the answer is often at least one code review per pull request. Someone else will say at least two. But there is also an unpopular opinion, which is also mine, maybe without code review. And this could end badly in most of the teams. But let's assume we weren't thrown out of the window. I think these windows couldn't open, so we are safe here. So how would the cycle look then? During planning, we have an architecture review. We do the experiments. We verify our model and assumptions. This makes our planning a bit longer, but if the outcome is a model that we can translate one-to-one to code, the implementation gets shorter. And I propose a replacement for code review. We can call it an architecture execution, because we don't focus too much on the code now, because we have the standards for the implementation, and usually there won't be anything surprising here. With that, the code review becomes just a formality. We only executing what we have decided before, and we verifying if our model is reflected in the code. So let's ask ourselves if the holy grail of design has been found. I don't know. What matters is not the method used, but the result which you can achieve. So you don't need to use what I showed here to achieve similar modularization and standardization. But if something else works in your team, then continue that. But I'd be happy to exchange experience, maybe during questions or after the presentation. If you want to make sure your process of designing application is good enough, I wrote even more criteria in my article on LinkedIn. You can find it by scanning the QR code, but I also give you the presentation after, so you will be able to find it. And at the very end, I would like to leave you with one thought. What was the main goal of this? We must remember about that. There is a quote that is not the expert's knowledge that is translated into the code, but the developer's understanding. So finally, it's our responsibility how the system will operate and how easy it will be to introduce changes and do fast future iterations. Because the most important task of domain-driven design is to overcome barriers between tech people and domain experts, so that our code can reflect the business and also evolve along with product of our company. If we manage to achieve this synergy, then we will be able to respond quickly to domain changes, and we will make money, and our business will make even more money. And we won't spend too much time solving just technical problems resulting from our past misunderstanding. And then we've done it. I hope that the astrologers of your project will announce that shared understanding has increased, the role of code review has decreased, speed of introducing changes increased, and product offering and income has increased. And then the population of us, programmers, real business partners will grow. And that's it what I wish for all of you at the end. Thank you. And if you want to stay in touch, there is my LinkedIn, and also I promised you the presentation, so you may scan this QR code, and your feedback is also very important for me, so there you will find a quick survey, and after you submit the form, you will receive the links for the presentation and sample code. That's it.
Thank you, Mateusz. Any questions?
Thanks for the presentation. I really enjoyed. I have just one question about the part with the automation part, I think.
Okay, I expected that.
Yeah. So in the example you showed that we react to the event and send the command, right?
Yes.
But also on the diagram you showed the, let's say, read model view that had the arrow to the automation. So is that kind of internal state for the process?
Yes, yes. So as I mentioned, this example which I've shown, it was the simplest example possible. So yes, it depends on the process. If the automation is always react with this command to this event, you don't need that. But most of the time you need some internal process state. And even in the simplest example, I prefer to do not have the green sticky on the event model, but it's the the formality of the method needs that, is that I treat it because in this case, on the simplest one, you also need the state, but the state is what events you have already processed. So it could be just a number on which event position in the store you are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks for the talk. So again, about sometimes in the read models, you need to update. In many new read models, you need to update the same, let's say, total value as in e-commerce systems, right? Where is the calculation part in the event modeling terminology? Like, where does it happen? In each read model separately, or there is some automation that does the calculation? Where would you put it?
You mean the calculation? Okay, you mentioned total value. So I have, let's for example, I have events. I add products to the cart, and I want to calculate
and
the
then
total. Yes.
Then you add a new product, and then
Okay, so as a business rule didn't we didn't place business rule on the event model. It's the same as a calculations, because you see how the event influence the view. So in an example, you should prepare another example, the given when then, but for a view, place 3 events before the view, and then say what should be the expected outcome, so the total value.
all right. So even if you have to change it in many read models, you would repeat it basically.
Okay, you ask about the implementation, yes,
Yeah,
not about the diagram of event model itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it depends on the preferences, conventions, but I will do it more than once.
Okay.
Any other questions? So I'm curious because in the automation code sample, there was the result of that was a command, right? So what was the return value was a command?
Return value was a command.
Okay, so given that there's a long-running automation, or rather a process, so who's executing those? How those commands are executed?
Okay, you mean long-running process, so you need more events to match some condition and then do the command. Okay, so in this case you can have more internal states, yes, and pipe the reactions, along with even introducing some decide function in between. It's one approach, but it's more for the purist of the functional implementation. So in my case, I would normally introduce some form of saga there and do it in one place.
Okay, so
then consume more events than one.
Okay, so then the decide function would just return some command that would be executed by a saga.
Yes. So you need more and maybe some artificial command events for the programming process.
Okay, cool. Is that in the source code?
I'm not sure if is it in Ruby code, because I also have in Java, and in Java there is something, I hope.
I can read that, although with pain. Thank you, Mateusz.